Finding the right country to move to can be hugely overwhelming and stressful. There's so many factors to take into consideration, making it impossible to find the best one. So let's make this easy for you. I'm going to rank 7 of the most popular countries for Hijrah, and I'm also going to reveal a bonus country that no one is speaking about, and it's actually the country that I decide to move to. Together, we're going to find out which country is the best and which country is the worst, using this tier list. From S being the best, all the way down to F being the worst. So the 3 main factors that I'm going to use to rank these countries are the cost of living, the safety, and the country in general as a whole. All of this is my personal opinion. I have no hidden agendas, so take it easy. So the first country on the list is actually my hometown. And to prove to you how unbiased I actually am and how much I don't have an agenda, we're going to slap this straight into F. I'm joking. So Pakistan's cost of living is pretty cheap, and the European currency will take you a long way over there. It's also known to have some of the most best food in the world. Maybe not so great for your six-pack, but it's definitely good. But on the other hand, they've been going through some real shaky times recently. Without going into the boring politics, let's just say it's a very unstable environment right now. There's a huge divide between the people that are living there and the people up top that are in charge. So safety is definitely not the greatest right now. Another clear indication that Pakistan is not in the greatest of situations is that most of the people in Pakistan do their utmost best to save as much money as they can to move to one of the other countries that are on this list. And if that's not a clear sign, then I don't know what is. So as a country to relocate to, it's going to have to go into E. Now, Dubai is known for its flashy lifestyle. People from all over the world are staying there and enjoying themselves fully. Good weather, it's safer than Europe, and there's tons of entertainment. It also has a lot of opportunities to network with wealthy people. Not to mention, getting a visa there is one of the easiest compared to anything on this list. But I have to say, for Hijrah, it's not the greatest. In my humble opinion, it's more like a diluted Europe. They're kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It's very free and modern, but definitely not in a good way. Everyone from around the world goes there to have fun. Clubs, alcohol, women, you name it, it's out there. And it's all out in the open for you to see. It could actually be worse than Europe because of how contagious that lifestyle is. And the final nail in the coffin for me is, on top of everything, it's not cheap. It's actually pretty expensive to live there. So for me, I would say Dubai is not the best of options. But I will say, if you're looking to relocate to the UAE, Sharjah and Abu Dhabi is a much better place to relocate if you're trying to do Hijrah. Dubai is going to go into D for me, but Abu Dhabi and Sharjah, they'll go into B. Okay, so now we have Egypt. This one here is one of the most popular destinations for Hijrah, and I can kind of see why. Egypt has Islamic teaching in abundance over there. I'll give it that. And it is home to some of the best Islamic institutes in the world. So that is a huge pro. The cost of living is pretty cheap, it's pretty modern, and there's a lot of stuff to do out there in general. And it's a Muslim country. The ironic thing that no one talks about when talking about Egypt, unless you're living in an Islamic learning neighborhood such as Nasser City, it's very well known that the officials up there give the brothers a very hard time. So if you're walking around with your big beard and you're wearing a thobe and you're about your business, you're going to get stopped a lot of the time. They're going to waste your time, they're going to question your motive, and overall just give you a hard time. And in some cases, before you leave, they're going to try and extort you and try to take money off you. And I wish I was joking, it's genuinely the truth. Another major factor that you need to consider, that Egypt isn't safe. The locals will know in a split second that you're not from around here, and you'll have a huge target on your head, and you'll be getting hustled left, right, and center. And trust me, it gets very jarring, always being approached, being followed, you're out with your missus and someone's trying to make a quick buck off you and not leaving you alone. Get used to getting overcharged for everything until you get familiar with the local prices. However, if you have a good income and you can live in a better neighborhood, then it is a great option. You'll be in a gated community, you have watchmen, you have security, no one's going to hustle you, it's just full of expats and richer people, you're going to be comfortable. But if you can't afford that, then you might want to reconsider and look into your decision a bit more. So Egypt for me is going into C. So now we have Morocco, the closest country to Europe on this list. If you intend on going back and forth, then this is a great fit for you. Flights are always cheap and it's only a couple of hours away. The cost of living though truly depends on where you live. If you want to stay in the bigger cities, then it's not as cheap as you might think. If you don't mind staying in the less popular cities, then the prices are much better. But keep in mind that in the popular cities and the bigger cities, they'll be able to communicate in English, in French, so communication will be less of an issue. If you're in the village and in the less popular cities, then you're going to struggle. So there's 2 big negatives to Morocco. One is there's a lot of hustling and a lot of scamming. Being an outsider, you're definitely going to fall victim to this. I was there not long ago and I was there for quite some time. and there's a lot of dodgy people. I got pickpocketed, you get looked at differently, you'll get approached differently. There's a lot of dodgy people there, and you've always got to be on point. And that gets very annoying and frustrating when you just want to chill out and not worry about anything. You just always have to be on point. So the second huge negative that if you don't know about already, then you've probably been living under a rock. Without going into too much detail, let's just say there's a lot of exposure to the things that you wouldn't want to see or you would want your family to see. In the main cities and in the popular places, it's very much in your face. In the smaller cities, it's not so much in your face, but it's definitely still there. So for me, Morocco is going into E. Okay, so now we have Indonesia, a country that a lot of us have slept on. It has over 240 million Muslims. It is the most Muslim populated country in the world. The cost of living is super cheap. You can eat out every day, not cook a day in your life, and it will still be cheaper than how much you pay for your groceries in Europe. Crazy. They have amazing destinations within Indonesia too, so you don't actually have to leave the country if you want to have a quick getaway. The most popular one, of course, being Bali. A place filled with a lot of expats from all over the world. It's a bit more commercial and touristy. But of course, Indonesia does have its flaws, one of them being the communication. Unless you're in the more touristic sides like Bali or Jakarta, you might struggle to communicate with the locals. English obviously isn't their first language. The second one being, it's a very far place from Europe. From London to Indonesia, it's about 15 hours. So obviously on top of that, the flight tickets are not cheap. Taking that into consideration, it's not practical at all if you're trying to go back and forth. However, if you can work around these two hurdles, then it is overall an amazing place to live. It has to go into B tier for me. So now we have Saudi Arabia, the motherland to all of us Muslims and a truly, truly special place. I was living in Medina for quite some time as well, and I can definitely say they are some of the most friendliest and some of the most loving people that I've ever met in my life. The country itself is very well developed, and they're investing huge money in building this country up. Their king is hugely ambitious, and he's doing whatever it takes and whatever it costs to make his country a giant. And he is. And in my opinion, within the next 10 years, you're going to see Saudi up there. So the interesting thing about Saudi, it's like two countries in one. On one hand, you've got Mecca and Medina, which is a super religious and calm, peaceful place. And on the other hand, you've got places like Riyadh and Jeddah, which are going on a complete different direction and competing with its neighbors like Dubai. We all know about the questionable things that are happening in Saudi and the rules changing, but as a person from Europe that's not used to Islam in their country, they're so far ahead of us in terms of Islam being in a country, you're not even going to realize. Medina, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of Hijrah. And if you're not happy in Medina, then bro, I don't know what to tell you, you're not going to be happy anyway. You might as well go to hell. If you want more freedom, then Jeddah or Riyadh is definitely going to be more for you. But I also have to tell you that the cost of living isn't that cheap, especially for stuff like groceries and stuff. There was times where I was in Medina and I'd go grocery shopping and I'd end up spending double what I normally spend on grocery in London. How does that make sense? But that also means that Saudi has everything that you could possibly want. You will never be deprived or feel like you're missing out on something from back home. They will have it. Might be a bit more, but they will have it. So this brings us to the biggest downside of Saudi, and that is the visa issue. It is next to impossible to get a visa out there. Unless you're sponsored or have a job out there, then bro, good luck to you. If you're thinking about going there to start your own business, to settle down and do your own thing, you've got another thing coming. It's not impossible, but you have to know the right people, i.e. me. I got you. This would definitely go into S tier for me, but because of the fact that it's so difficult to go there and to stay there in peace, I'm going to have to put it into A. So now we have Malaysia, a beautiful country, and it's far more modern than you actually think. Another very popular country that a lot of Muslims go to for Hijrah. Super clean, a lot of greenery, a lot of nature, good weather, good culture, great food. You've got a blend of everything over there. It's very similar to Indonesia in my opinion, but I would say, with all due respect, a bit more modern. It's not as cheap as Indonesia, but it's definitely cheaper than most of the other countries on this list. A lot of the Malaysians learn English in school, so communicating with them is pretty easy as well. Another huge pro about Malaysia that not everyone knows about, it has some of the best medical hubs in the world. People from all over the world fly there for their medical needs, and it is much cheaper. And the little cherry on top, it has some of the most best Islamic schools in the world. A solid pick, and that's going into D for me. And finally, the bonus wild card, the country that I chose to move to over all of these other options. And funny enough, I actually never knew about this country until I started looking into Hijrah properly. So I made a simple checklist, and this country ticked every single box for me. I was sick of the city life in London and the fast pace and the glitters and the glamours. I wanted to go somewhere that was quiet, somewhere that was peaceful, somewhere that was relaxed. But it had to be modern and not some village. It had to have good facilities and somewhere that had nice weather all year round. I also had to take into consideration that لا أتكلم عربي. I don't speak Arabic. So I had to go to a country where they spoke English and I could communicate with them. But the main issue with all these other countries was the visa. I wasn't going to move to another country to go set up shop and go work for someone, and my visa depended on this guy, whether he wants to hire me or fire me. I might be there for a week and I'm out the next week. In most of these countries that I've spoken about on this list, if you want to start a business, it'll be your idea, your plan, your savings, your money, you'll pay for everything, you'll do everything, but you have to partner up with a stranger from that country to get approved. And if you haven't got that person, then you're not getting approved. So basically, in short, you've got to trust a stranger with a lot of your money and hope that he doesn't rip you off. Yeah, I'm not playing that game. I wanted to start my own thing and I wanted 100% ownership over it. And it could be whatever I wanted, including working from home on my own projects. And I found it. A country that ticked every single box. And the huge bonus on top of that is it's one of the cheapest on this list. Groceries, the cost of renting properties, the cost of buying a car, the petrol, everything that you need in the day-to-day life that is pretty expensive, it's peanuts over here. And that country is Oman, the diamond of the Arabian Peninsula. And I'm so glad I found it. Alhamdulillah. If you've not looked into Oman and you're serious about living the best possible life as an expat, then you need to watch this video next. You'll have a full insight of what Oman has to offer and what life really is like living here as an expat.